So after the reception on the last video, I went back to the lab, went back to the drawing board. I went back to my little, my little conspiracy board. And I've got another theory, guys, and I was cooking. I went back to the drawing board and I started cooking. I started thinking, okay, as much as that last video makes sense, it could also be wrong. Like I said, it's just a theory, it's just a thought. It's just me adding up certain dots that I'm seeing. But from now until Doomsday comes out, I'm telling you guys, I'm making a promise. I will have clocked this movie. I will have clocked the puzzle. And this theory, and this second theory I've got, as much as I'd say I don't prefer it in comparison to my last video, this theory, I think in a sense it makes more sense. It's more likely that Marvel could go down this route again. Just another theory, but like I said, guys, buckle up. Let's get straight into it. It's theory time. So, like I said in the last video, we know that Endgame is Doomsday is a direct sequel to Endgame. And if you watched the last video, you know about all the points I made. And we basically spoke about when Tony snapped his fingers, his body might have died, but his consciousness and memories might have bled into another multiversal variant. Because I actually believe that our Tony Stark was never Tony Stark. It was Victor Von Doom. I think a point I didn't make in the last video, and I need to make in this video, is that we need to know the difference between time travel and multiversal travel and how they essentially link. Because if I'm just putting together the 616 and the Fantastic Four universe, where Doom comes from, these are two different universes, not two. This isn't essentially the same universe, different timeline. No, these are different universes. Different universes have their own Big Bang. They have their own historical events. You know what I mean? Just because the Fantastic Four is set in, I believe, the 60s or 70s, doesn't mean anything. It just means that that's where that time is right now. But even then, they're still way ahead. So by the time they get to the 616 timeline, 2025 or whatever we're in, 2026, I don't know, they would have been gone clear. But that's just, that's just a tangent. But actually getting into the theory, I think that during Endgame, there's a lot of clues and crumbs again. This movie's littered with them, man. You just gotta give it a good rewatch. But I actually think that Tony Stark may have time traveled in that movie, literally in that movie, without, obviously off screen, without nobody knowing. And Doomsday may actually be what the journey he goes on, in a sense, you know what I mean, and what he learns. And because there's many things. Okay, Tony returns to Earth. Years pass. He has Morgan and Pepper. He has his family. The Avengers approach him. He's reluctant at first to help, but Tony Stark, his curiosity gets the better of him. The guy, people need to understand, the guy figures out time travel in his fucking cabin on any other Sunday. Like, the guy figures out time travel like that. If you know Tony Stark's character, and we do know Tony Stark's character, if you'd ask the question, okay, do we really think that he'd work time travel out and not get curious, not explore, not, put in certain fail-safes and not, just see what he's working with before he gets to the Avengers? But again, I don't maybe think that this was the exact time he did. I don't think he comes up with time travel and then he time travels, because we also find out that he needs the pin particles to do this, so that's why he goes back to the Avengers. You know, they essentially need each other. He's got the formula for time travel. They've got, you know, the pin particles. It's okay. So they go on a time heist, you know, a Black Widow dies, they get the stones, whatnot. And obviously, I referred to it in the last video, but that moment where they essentially failed receiving and retrieving the Tesseract, that wasn't meant to happen. I think a lot of people get it misconstrued and think that he who remains didn't pave. He who remains would have predicted Loki come to the TVA, and no, not really, because we know that, I think her name's Renslayer. I think it's Kang's woman or whatever it is. I think she says that, yeah, what the Avengers did, that whole time traveling, yeah, what the Avengers did, that was meant to happen. But the Avengers essentially failing and you escaping with the Tesseract was not meant to happen. So we just gotta keep that in mind and understand the ramifications of that. So back to Tony now. They go on the time heist, and that whole thing with Nebula happens where the past version of Nebula finds out, and then Thanos finds out. And then Nebula, obviously, this evil Nebula obviously returns to the MCU. And obviously at this point still, none of the characters know. None of the characters know this. But what if Tony knew this? If Tony knew, what if at some point, maybe even in the time heist, maybe at some point, because when I think of time travel, I think that if you, like the Ancient One tells us, yeah, you can take the stones, what the Ancient One and Hulk tell us, yeah, we can take the stones, but if we return them in the exact moment, it's like nothing ever happened. And obviously we know the simple rules of time travel. You know, when you time travel, don't let nobody see you, don't cause nothing, just, you know what I mean, do what you do and get out without being seen and fix it, and you know what I mean. So what if maybe, I don't know, again, we're just theorizing, and this is why I'd love for you guys to get in the comments so we can all help each other. Because at what point did Tony time travel? He could have time traveled, yeah, when he went back to the past, when he went back to that SHIELD base, and you know, he met his father, and I think, was it him or Steve? I think it was Steve that retrieved the pin particles, but I don't know. He could have time traveled at any point under the heroes' noses. It wouldn't have been hard for him. I don't think it would. It would have been a simple, put this into somewhere and then go back to that moment type shit. That's how I think of it. Maybe it's more complicated than that. So Nebula returns with the heroes, the evil Nebula, and she lets Thanos through. And we see when Hulk's preparing to snap his fingers, has no one realised there's some, like, all the heroes are prepared. All the heroes, they've got their weapons, they've got their armour, and, you know, Thor's there. What do we know about Thor? Thanos legit snapped his fingers in front of Thor. You know, so we learn that, you know, for the snap, there's no, like, you know, when someone snaps their fingers, what we've seen anyways, nothing, there's not going to be no big explosion. There's not no shockwave of energy. You know what I mean? There's nothing like that, because we've seen, again, in Infinity War, Thanos snaps his fingers right in front of Thor. There's a flash, you know, Thor's unscathed, and people just get dusted. So, but in this moment, all the heroes are suited up, like they're ready for battle, and it's like, okay, why? And like, what are you guys really preparing for? Could it have been a thing where Tony's just maybe gone to them, okay guys, let's just be ready? You know, he doesn't need to really say that. Let's, you know what I mean, give him the reason why. Just, you know, guys, we're about to do something big here. Let's just be prepared. But maybe he would have known what they was exactly preparing for. Because, you know, you could have put Hulk behind a glass. You know what I mean? You could have put Hulk in like, I don't know, some chamber. Whoever was wielding the gauntlet, snapping their fingers, you could have put them behind a glass wall and say, you snap it and we'll be on the other side. Not, okay, snap your fingers, we're all around you and we're all suited and booted, like we're ready to go fight. You know what I mean? It seems a bit funny. So Thanos ambushes the compound. He ambushes the compound. You know, none of the heroes die in that initial ambush. And then when the first time we see Tony, after that ambush has happened, we see he picks up Steve. And what does he say to Steve? Like, you mess with time, it tends to mess back. Essentially, we fucked with time travel. And then now a past version of Thanos was here. How would he know that? Guys, how would he know that? Why were those his first words, especially to Steve Rogers, who we know what journey he goes on? You know, going back in the past, staying with Peggy Carter, having a child. Like, it seems very, very subliminal. It seems very, you know what I mean? Like, there's more to it. You mess with time travel, it tends to mess back. Essentially a warning him, because you know what I mean? These words now are going to be his last words to these Avengers. You know what I mean? And it's just that's just something to hold on to, guys. What do you guys think about that point? You mess with time travel, it tends to mess back. Just after Thanos is a past version of Thanos has ambushed the compound. None of the heroes knew this was gonna happen. None of the heroes had no recollection. Oh my God, I'm onto something. Oh, I'm trying to think because there was a scene, guys, where Nebula, she was like, she realized that. I'm trying to think if there was any way they knew. I don't think they would. They didn't know, because I remember there was a scene where Nebula, I think her brain was bugging out and she realized that Thanos knows, but I don't think she actually was quick enough to actually tell anybody. But okay, so this final battle's happening now, and again, remember Tony Stark in this. Remember, we've all got our theory hats on. At this point, Tony's already seen the future. He's already did essentially what Doctor Strange did and looked into the future, maybe even looked into multiversal, you know, realities, and somehow. So he's already, again, in this battle, steps ahead. So we see that he has a quick exchange with Doctor Strange, and he says that, yo, your Doc is like, is this the one that we win? And obviously he's referring back to when Doctor Strange in Infinity War said that I saw a million whatever timelines, there's only one that we win. And even that in itself, Tony knows that. He finds that out in Infinity War. He's the only one, and Nebula, that would know that. But Tony, again, I'd think that that would be dwelling on his mind. Okay, how? You know what I mean, guys? Like, that would have been dwelling on his mind a lot. Like, okay, how is it that we only won this once, and what is that future, and what are all the other futures? What do they look like? You know what I mean? Again, that just ties back into his curiosity. I just think he would have been really curious and would have been able to stop himself from exploring more. So he says to Strange, is this the one that we win? Strange says, yo, if I tell you, then, you know what I mean, it might not happen. I don't think that's Tony essentially asking, like, okay, what's going to happen? I think that's essentially saying, like, he's basically saying to Doctor Strange, like, he's trying to, again, play his role, act oblivious, you know, act oblivious and act like maybe he hasn't peeked into the future himself, act like he doesn't know what's happening, but still, essentially, just giving himself like a check, you know, let me just check in and see. Yo, hey Doc, is this the one that we win? Let me see how he replies so I know that I'm on track. You know what I mean? I think that's a bit of maybe him just checking to see if he's still on track and how, if Endgame will, you know, that may be his sin. So Thanos gets his hands on the gauntlet. I remember watching this thinking in this moment, wow, he's actually, I don't know how, but I genuinely thought he's about to snap his fucking fingers again. But then you got Tony Stark. In like a little tussle, he just grabs the gauntlet. Thanos, kicks him away. And then we find to see that he has, somehow within that little scuffle, he's managed to transfer the Infinity Stones to him. Again, how would he... Guys, come on. Guys, everyone sit your fucking asses down right now and listen. If back in the compound before the ambush, Hulk was about to snap his fingers, how would Tony have known that the stones would have had to been used again? How would he have known this, guys? How would he have known? Hulk or Thor, whoever was gonna do the snap, that half an hour later after battle, there would have to be another snap. How would he have known that? How would he have known when he was building the gauntlet to put in a failsafe where those Infinity Gauntlets could easily be transferred? How would he have known we know Tony Stark's smart. Come on, we know he's smart, but this isn't being smart. This is being steps ahead. This is somebody already knowing what is going to happen. So he knew it would have been up to him to get the gauntlet and snap. He essentially knew he was going to die. He knew he was going to die, but this is why I feel like, and even, there's like a look before he grabs the gauntlet and it pans to him and it's like, okay, that's him thinking that it's time now. It's time to make big move and really do this. But he knows he'll be back even when he says, I'm Iron Man. Even the I'm Iron Man line. Just, now we know that he's going to play Doctor Doom. That's just his character there, signing off, saying, I'm Iron Man. Because this Iron Man was never meant to be Iron Man. He was never meant to be Iron Man. He was always meant to be Doom. But that was him as his hero, as essentially a rare anomaly, signing off and saying, I am Iron Man. This was my legacy. But now you're about to see the other version of me. Because what do we know? The heroes still fuck about. Even after Tony's death, Steve still chooses love and stays. He still chooses, love over, reality and stays in the past. Doctor Strange in multiverse, he does whatever. Spider-Man does whatever. Even after his death, there was still a lot of fuckery happening. So essentially, this is what the hero... Doom is a creation of the heroes. Doom is, essentially, this is the theory. Just to sum up the theory again, guys. Tony Stark time traveled. Tony Stark already experienced Endgame, basically. Especially that last part of Endgame. He knew from, maybe even from Nebula being evil, from her, from Thanos ambushing to him having to snap. He knew it. He saw it all happening again. I think that's as far as I've got with this theory. But yeah, how do you guys feel? Do you think that the last theory was better in the sense that, when he snapped his fingers, he dies but his consciousness transfers? Or he time travels, essentially puts in another... he could essentially put in another failsafe somewhere else. And, that leads to... whatever he does leads to him being born in that Fantastic Four universe and becoming the Doom in that universe. I don't know. Again, I've got theories coming out my ass, man. Like, I've got time for this. This might not be right, but all we can do now is just speculate until the movie comes out, guys. I hope you like the video. Get in the comments, man. Let's get discussing. How do you guys feel about this theory? Like I said at the start of the video, I don't think it's the best theory, but again, it does make sense. Again, there are little clues in the movie. There are little plot holes that haven't been filled for a reason, and I think we will see a lot of loose ends get tied up in Doomsday. So yeah, if you're new, subscribe. If you're not, appreciate you being here. Until the next video, guys.